Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to week 2 of Fore Dads Podcast. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed our previous one. We had a blast, first time ever, I think, for both of us doing a podcast, and it was a lot more fun than expected. And looking forward to, talking some more sports this week. I know on the lineup for sure is the ALCS and the NLCS. So we definitely had some good games there. And, as always, we have Don Julio and myself, Teeds. So happy to have you guys here. And yeah, I mean, did you watch any of those games, or which one were you more interested in, Julio?
One that I personally was more interested in was Philly and
Padres.
Yeah, Padres. Sorry, I was spacing out. But dude, I mean, what a display of hitting by Bryce Harper that entire series. Like, batted over 600, and then on top of that, to go against Suarez and to roll one over the last time he faced him, to then realize the same pitch sequence with the changeup that he knew right after he started him with the changeup, he was going to come fastball at him the entire time. So he took the changeup, next pitch, fastball elevated, gone, game over. Like, dude, I don't care what people say, but that guy is by far one of the best hitters in the MLB today. I mean, it's taken him 5 years to kind of get his shit together, but I mean, just to even be in this position and even to sniff a World Series now, but just what a great display. I mean, and just a real classy interview after. Wasn't like arrogant about it, wasn't overconfident. Just, he's like, hey, it's part of the game. Like, I knew once I got that changeup, he was going to go 5 fastballs at me. So I waited for the next one, and there it was.
I mean, the hype surrounding Bryce Harper ever since he was 15, and he has lived up to that, dude. Which is it's like LeBron James kind of status, in the sense of how much hype was around him. Except for LeBron, I feel like was maybe 17, 16, 17. So he was a little bit older, and obviously LeBron is LeBron. But no matter what, having all that hype at such a young age and delivering is so hard. It's so hard to be successful in a pro sport. Not only do you have to be good, you have to be healthy. You can't have those injuries that just sideline you and you're out too long. And not only do you have to be good, but you have to be good enough to keep playing and beat out your opponents. But Bryce Harper, he is just, this postseason, I think I heard one of the interviewers was talking about he's just been speaking it into existence. This whole thing with his team. He's we're going to win. We're going to win. We're going to make it to the World Series. Yeah. We're going to do it. And he's not just saying it, but he's backing it up as well. And I mean, who would have expected the NLCS to be Padres Phillies beginning of the year? They're unless you're a Phillies or a Padres fan, there's no way you were calling that. And with this break that's going on right now, I kind of worry for the Phillies that it might slow them down a little bit because of having such a big gap. Kind of how with the Rockies, maybe 10, 15 years ago, they went 22-1 in their last 20 games when they went into the World Series, and they got swept by the Red Sox because they had such a big gap. They got there too quick and they cooled off. But I mean, not going to lie, watching my Guardians lose to the Yankees and then watching the Yankees get swept was a great feeling. I wanted the Astros to win. I hate the Yankees. Now I want the Phillies to win, to beat the Astros, because I hate the Astros.
And I mean, going back to what you said, I still have that Sports Illustrated article of Bryce Harper where they compared him to the king of baseball, like they did King James. And I remember watching that home run derby in college, in between classes, and seeing him at Tropicana Field just launching balls up into the stratosphere up there. It was insane, dude. And I mean, you and I both know, because we came from that era of the Beezer bat, right? We know that those things were mammoths, and to see him using that voodoo, the Beezer voodoo, it was okay, we knew he was going to hit some.
People died people died because of how much pop those bats had, dude. Like,
had, because I mean, Beezers were around for maybe all throughout high school, and then I think BB Core came into like junior college. Yeah. But it was,
which was great for pitchers, but
I mean, but you know what? Again, like going back to like just the composite of what the Beezers were, it was like even when those things broke, they were even better. Like, that was what was scary. I remember when Nike came out with that Air One or whatever it was, that thing was like the bat to have, or the Orange Stealth. Like, all of those were just great bats.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Stealths were the way. I remember one of my buddies played at Virginia Tech, and they got crushed versus Maryland in the ACC one weekend, and they were like, okay, what is up? Like, Maryland wasn't amazing, but like it was back with the Beezer bats or whatever, and someone one of the coaches was like, every brand new bat that we get, we literally run it over with a car for like 3 or 4 times.
I was just about to say, I remember
we just take them, and like, because you get those walls closer, whatever it is, like of the bats, and like shrink it or like tighten it or whatever it is. And dude, that ball just flies off the bat, and it's like deadly. Yeah. And that's why they went to BB Core, which was great when we became pitchers in college, because that was like perfect. We got to hit when we were in high school with the Beezer, and then didn't have to face it in BB Core in college.
Yeah, man. But no, I mean, going back to what we were talking about with Bryce, with Harper, is just, yeah, dude, like the guy just was amazing from day one. I mean, even from when he came on board of dropping out of high school early to go to junior college with his brother.
17 or whatever, 16, stupid.
Graduate with the GED and an AA like within a year, and break that Las Vegas community college home run record, and then to get drafted. But it's like, I just feel like for a guy who was set on such a high pedestal, like he never caved from the pressure. I mean, he kept,
not at all.
Even when like Washington was going through all their reorgs, they were trying to figure out how to put a team around him, to the whole thing with like him and Papelbon getting into the fight, to then like Cole Hamels freaking throwing that ball at his leg. I mean, he just had nothing but adversity to go through. And then to get his monster contract of $330 million with the Phillies, to then see his team go to the World Series, his old team go to the World Series and
win it,
dominate. Like, bro, like this is his time to be like, yo, like I need to do something. But I just want to say one thing else. I know you're probably going to hate this, but I really wanted to kind of see Aaron Judge, just with the season he had this year, get to a World Series, just to kind of see the Yankees back in a World Series. But even though, and this is a topic for discussion, I feel like I'm about to open up. I'm choosing violence right now, but I feel like I'm going to open up the can here. Even though the Houston Astros are known for cheating, like they're just the scum of baseball right now. They're just not a favorite team.
Right.
Even through all of it, bro, like they have been so consistent. They're in the playoffs every year. They have a solid team. And even this year, they didn't have Correa for the first time, and didn't even lose a step. I mean, to even see,
and George Springer wasn't there either.
Yeah, George Springer wasn't there either. But still, like to see Verlander, as long as he's been in the league, to still throw almost 100 miles an hour is like,
dude, it's nuts.
It's amazing. I mean, my dad made a reference saying that like he's like today's Nolan Ryan.
Yeah,
it's a little, that's a pretty
right.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody that's gonna touch Nolan, but he's definitely up there. But I mean, I think it's.
I mean, I get it. I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is the ultimate like FU for the Astros right now. Like if they win it, it's kind of like, okay, we did it with cheating, we did it without cheating. I feel like if they were to get, like, is the term reprimanded, like if they were to lose that World Series, because of the cheating, that people wouldn't be that bad. But I feel like because they didn't get any kind of like punishment for it, legit punishment, that's what pissed people off. Like, oh, you cheated, and it's kind of like the whole saying of like Barry Bonds used steroids, but we're not going to count the 73, but we're still going to count it. We're going to count it, but we don't. And then Judge does his thing, and it's like, well, that's 62 without steroids, but it's still like four records away from the actual, one. Baseball's so weird with that.
Well, you got to remember, so all the home run kings kind of came from the NL. So they wanted to kind of make it seem like Judge was on his own platform.
Oh, they definitely did. Yeah. Right.
Right. I mean, no one had even touched that, except for Babe Ruth and I forget who the other was, but there's only a certain few guys, and they were from way back in the day. But you think of Sosa, you think of Mark McGwire, Canseco, like Bonds, obviously.
Yep.
All those guys, they were all in the NL. So this was the first real home run king coming into fruition, essentially for the AL. But yes, right. I did feel like it was a little overhyped, because it's like, dude, you still realize, even though there's an asterisk next to it, like Bonds still hit 73 bombs in one season.
And how many walks did he have? He had like 150, 200 walks. And it's like, if you take out half of those walks and give him legit ABs on half of those walks, he could have easily touched 90, 85,
for 80,
sure. He was like, that season itself, regardless if you're on steroids or not, you still have to have the hand eye. You still have to be, okay. Still have to have so much on top of that.
Dude,
I don't want Barry Bonds.
I 100% agree, which is why it's like I said, I'm choosing violence, because it's literally like, this is a conversation that everyone talks about, where they are just like, everyone goes in saying like, oh, he's a cheater, he's this, but it's like, dude, sure, it made him stronger, but it didn't. I mean, if anything, with that much muscle, it doesn't make you faster. It doesn't make you, it doesn't improve your eyesight, doesn't improve your handability, nothing. So it was like,
right.
That was still all skill, and also to go back and I'm kind of all over the place now, but to also go back and talk about, Houston is like, I'm sorry, but to say that banging on a garbage can to pick signs is cheating, I think is a bit over dramatic, right? Because I remember even in college, and this is I remember even in college, like, we used to have a scout who would, who would literally look at the dugout from the first base line, or I'm sorry, third base line, and pick out the signs of what the pitching coach or the head coach would be giving to the catcher. Right. It's always been there. I mean, even in junior college, we did the same thing. We had another guy who would take a look, try and figure out try and figure out what they were doing, what was called frequently, what were the signs that they were going to. And when you think about it from a televised, constantly filmed game, like the Major League, like Major League Baseball, there's so much video out there. Who is to say that even back, like even just a few years ago, you could easily just go and just see, hey, anytime that Molina is touching the inside of his leg and throws down a 1-2-3, he's going second sign, telling Wainwright, like, hey, throw the fastball in the outside corner,
Right.
It's there. It was available to them to do it, but they took advantage of it. They did it.
Yeah, I hear you there. And I feel like if you can do it organically, in the sense that, like, I was talking to someone about this yesterday, where it's like, you play blackjack, right? And if you can do the 21 the whole thing about 21 in your head, to me, that should be legal, But if you have to use some kind of card counter and an app or some like electronic thing, to help you get the numbers right and everything like that, that's illegal. But if you can do it on your own, like, okay, good for you. Like, not many people can. But I feel like I think the biggest issue was like the camera angles that they were using. Cameras that weren't supposed to be on were on, and they were actually having people in game figuring out the signs that they're not supposed to. When I feel like, if you have someone that's staring at the dugout, that's fine. I mean, like, that's part of baseball, like picking up the signs, right? That's like the whole part of it. But when you add the electronic or the technology aspect to it, that gives you another advantage that not everybody's using, is supposedly illegal. That's where it's like,
well, I mean, it's a game that's ever evolving with the world that surrounds it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Like, if you looked at what was his name, Hadar from the Padres, the closer, he would go like this next to his ear with his glove, because I guess he had a headphone that was.
Oh no, they have these new things now where like they put like a band in the hat.
Yeah.
And supposedly it's like the communication.
Yeah, so it's the communication, but if you look at the catcher is like doing Morse code on a pad on the side of his leg to send over the sign. It's like it's like, okay, I get that, but it's like, what's the difference there? You know, like, who's to say that they don't hire some freaking genius to tap the line and figure out the same fucking thing? Like,
no, I hear you there. No, I hear you, but I just feel like at that point it's all what do they call that when like the honor system at that point, where it's like everyone says they're the honor system until they're caught, and it's like, oh, they play the dumb card, like, oh, I didn't know I was doing that, I didn't know he was doing that, and someone loses a job or a career because they were told to do something, they did it, they were caught. But yeah, I mean, I think that was honestly implemented because of the Astros.
Yeah, all this new stuff is like, from the who was it? I think it was what's his name? Trujillo, the catcher for the Yankees. I think his last name's Trujillo.
So I couldn't tell you.
Anyways, he had like these little little finger colors to switch up the signs. Like, I guess different colors meant different signs. So yeah, that was something that I noticed. It was just like,
I mean, yeah, imagine being so intricate now. Like, I remember when I played, dude, we had like a sign system, and you don't play everyone so much. Not everything was recorded that much back then. At least when we played, you had games that were recorded, but it wasn't as common as they are now. And like, those signs were pretty intricate, not crazy, but we didn't have to change them up per game, per inning, per batter that's up, and like, imagine all the extra that has to go into your mind to make sure you're throwing the same pitch. And if you don't, and the catcher's expecting slider, and you throw a 97-mile-an-hour fastball at their neck, like, dude, it's bad. It's like not like 88 miles an hour. They might be all right. It'll be like a bruise, but like, some people might not be able to breathe if that hits them in the freaking trachea.
Yeah. I mean, again, it might have just woken up like you said, I think you brought up a good point. It definitely woke up, I think, a lot of organizations to try and implement some different ways to basically try and better hide signs. But again, it's part of the game. I mean, you still, it's like that quote from Bull Durham: you throw the ball, you catch the ball, you hit the ball. It's very simple,
right.
Those three, simplistic functionalities don't change. I mean, sure, even though now, like, when they were checking Mosgrove with his rotations, and they were tracking all that, I was like, now that's crazy. Like, I wish something like that was out when we were playing, because that would have been, I mean, I don't think that young I would have even known what to do with those numbers, but just to hear it was like, fuck. I mean, like, you and I playing golf, rotation is a huge thing, right? So
you're
getting 4,000 RPMs of spin, your ball's going nowhere. But if you're getting 4,000, 7,000 RPMs on a curveball of rotation, bro, do you realize how like, you got to have calluses on like the tips of your fingers to even get that?
Dude, it's insane. I mean, it's crazy now that they have reasons behind what RPMs mean for pitching.
Yeah.
Like there would be like someone that throws like 98 miles an hour and someone that throws maybe like 92, but people are like, it's getting on you so much quicker than 92. Like, it does not feel like 92. And that person that would throw 92 compared to the 98, their RPMs or whatever, the ball rotations or whatever it is the same amount of rotations as a 98, but it's coming in as 92. Some people are able to get more of that spin ratio, and it's like, how the heck is that even possible? But like, it's what makes the ball feel like it's quicker, and it's crazy.
I think the biggest thing it woke up is like, you and I have always heard, we've always heard the term a heavy fastball, right? Second life. Like, I think now that really kind of essentially demonstrates it now what those terms mean. Like when you're seeing a ball come out of somebody's hands with a, I think, I think Verlander, they said it comes out of his hand with 4,500 RPMs of spin, something like that, 44, 43, something like that off a fastball, a cut fastball. Like that's a lot of spin. So literally by the time, and the average is supposedly around 3,000 to 2,700, somewhere in that range, right? So to see that the ball's coming out with that much spin at the release of his hand, that means that ball is coming in still above the average than than the normal. So that's what a heavy fastball is. It comes in and it goes through its target.
Yeah, dude, it's freaking. Yeah, you can get like baseball is such a technical sport and so like into the stats and so into that stuff like before any sport really was. Like it's all like, oh, you hit 330 bombs and 100 RBIs, all about the stats, all about the stats. There's so many dang games, like it's, and they break it down so much more now than they ever have of these new stats like WAR, which I don't even know what WAR is, but like supposedly like a really good stat if you have a great WAR, but like all these extra stats that weren't there because they had the ERA,
like walks like, average.
I honestly couldn't tell you, but like like for like the longest time they kept the same stats: ERA, walks, Ks, like hits batters, whip, and things like that. Those are like the standard for so many years. And within the last like 5 to 7 years, they've been adding these new ways to figure out who's more valuable of a player. How many runs has this player saved? The team, and all these other things that like can kind of show you a better value than the traditional stats that they might look like a great player on average, but they're really not, doing as well. Like in the NBA, they have like the plus minus, like when they're on the floor. Oh, like for the NBA, like they have like a plus minus where it's like if you're on the court for 20 minutes and you're a plus 10, that means that when you're on the court for 20 minutes, your team scored 10 more points than the other team. If you're minus 10, that means like the other team scores 10 more points than you, so you're not as good of a player beyond the sport, right?
At that time.
Exactly, you're a weakest link. But like if you have a high plus or minus, that means that even if you're not putting up points, like you're being productive throughout the rest of the team, like whether it's an assist, whether it's a board, whether it's just like helping the rest of the five guys mesh and play defense or whatever it is. It's another stat to help you recognize that, hey, if they're not putting up the stats, they're still a very productive player.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so crazy, man. I haven't been following baseball as much as I had, honestly, since I stopped. Like I follow it, but not like as closely as when I was playing.
Yeah.
And looking back at it now, when I started watching the Guardians again, this year, it's just like, dude, there's so many of these stats that are out there where I'm like, I feel like I'm like that dad, like talking to their son about music. That's not music, son. What are you talking about? This is music. And it's like the new stuff. And it's like the old school, new school. And it's like, I feel old, man.
Yeah. No, man. I mean, I think we briefly touched on that in our last podcast where we were talking about just how when you're done playing the game, it is very different. I think as a player that, you just had to make the decision that you're done. You know what I mean? It just came to that realization that it's just not going to go anywhere. And it is a little bit different. Like, I mean, I don't know. I went to a game with LeBron's not too long ago, to a Giants game. And he was just like, you don't really like paying too much attention to the games as much anymore. I'm like, for what? I'm not fucking playing. I just want to get drunk now.
Right.
I just want to get drunk. I just want to have a good beer and fucking, drink. And he was like, yeah, he's like, he's like, I'm still like in the game. And actually it was when the Giants played the Phillies. So we got to see Bryce Harper.
No way.
Yeah. And we were just in there, just, shooting the shit. But, even now, I think I'm going to open up another topic here, but I think one of the big things that no one really talks about, you and I are dads now, and how much our bodies have transitioned from being like in super good shape, like where we were running foul poles every day, we were lifting
my gosh, dude.
to where now it's like just to even have to run to the refrigerator, grab milk, warm it up, then run back over to my daughter, do all this stuff. It's like What's going on? Why am I sweating so easily now?
Oh man, oh yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, dude, I mean, like, just going back to like going to a game again. Like, I grew up going to baseball games. Dodger games is where I went to a lot of. I went to a lot of Indians at the time. Now they're the Guardians. I had the only stadium I hadn't been to in California is the Giants. Um, I literally had a World Series ticket to go see them play when they played against the Royals. And I was dating my now wife. I think it was like a month or two into dating her. Now she's my wife, obviously, but like I had a ticket. I was literally she texted me like, "Hey, oh my gosh, we're gonna go to the World Series. It'll be so awesome!" I'm like, "Sweet, let's be awesome." Never been to a World Series. I don't care who it's with. I mean, like it's just like a World Series event, just to be at like the pinnacle of a professional sport. You know, how epic would that be? And I'm like, sweet. And then like about to drive over to her place, which we were at long distance at the time, and she goes, "Oh man, I'm sorry, but like my dad gave away your ticket." And I was like, "What? What happened?" And one of his coworkers that he worked with felt he was buying the tickets, and one of his I think she was the secretary was like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" And he's like, he felt bad that she didn't get a ticket to go, and obviously I was new, like a month or two into the relationship. I could be someone that just, be no one. He gave it to her. So I still went with him. They gave me a card, and I was at a bar right outside the stadium just drinking. I had a Giant shirt on just so I could blend in. I knew nobody. It was literally me by myself at a bar just watching the game, and just drinking, having a good time. And my wife seemed to have a fun time. And apparently the person that they brought was like so oblivious. They were like, "Why are there so many people at this game? What is good?" Like, they had no idea what the event was. They had no idea the the context of everything. They literally were like apparently annoying the other people, like my father-in-law, my wife, and like her friend
Yeah.
that was the Giants
So,
fan there, because she kept like asking like, "I'm cold, I need to get this. Oh, I'm hungry, I need to do this."
so I'm
And
gonna
it was
so I'm
just
gonna
like, oh
interrupt you. I'm gonna
god.
interrupt you right there because literally my wife and I have a story of when we were dating. My
Hmm.
best man at my wedding, his now wife's like best friend from their sorority. She and her husband were here in town, and my wife got along with them really well at my buddy's wedding, and they were here in town because her husband's in the military, so he was like right during fleet week because he's an Air Force pilot, so he was here to perform and do stuff. So anyways, long story short, basically we're being respectful. We say, "Hey, let's get together, let's go to a game." So we take him out to a game. Till this day forward, like my wife is like, it was the end of the season. I just wanted to go and have a good time. And it was the most annoying game, bro. Like she was asking all these questions. They had no fucking idea. And then what was even like the icing on the cake was like we took them out to dinner after because it was like the Giants were getting blown out. It was even more frustrating because like my wife just had to focus on, or she couldn't focus on the game. We
Hmm.
take him to 21st Amendment Brewery, and they didn't do anything. Like they didn't even lift a finger, even like to ask, like, "Hey, hey guys, since you guys bought the tickets, like let us get dinner." Like nothing. And my wife just fucking lost it. Like she's like, "We need to leave now. I'm not spending another 2 minutes here." And I was like, I get it. Like, let's fucking go. It was like till this day,
Oh no, man.
it was one of like the worst baseball experiences I think her and I both have ever experienced. Until this day, it's like we every time we see them on like Instagram or
Oh
whatever,
no,
we're
you
like,
just gave each other the look like,
yeah, we're just like, dude, fuck these people, dude.
oh
Like,
my god. With you saying that's one of the worst experiences, I'll give you one of the best experience that I've had in a baseball game. I don't know if I told you, but like 2021, so not this year, but last year, in the beginning of April, my Stephanie, my wife, her cousin's husband. So it's not that complicated, but it sounds like it. Cousin's husband. Um, we went over for their bachelor party as part of his like groomsmen party or whatever, and we go down to LA to watch a Dodger game. Dodgers versus Padres. He's a Dodger fan. We go, and dude, 2021, the best year to go to a baseball game, and I'll tell you why. It was still COVID, they acted like they cared, like it was a big deal, like, oh, make sure you have this or that, but if you had a grouping, we had a grouping of 5 guys. Outside of our grouping, they zip tied the seats on the outside, in the front of us, and behind us. So there was no one in the front of us, to the side of us, or behind us, within like 2 or 3 seats. And there was no vendors going up and down the aisles like, hey, who needs peanuts? Who needs beer? It was amazing. Like, you could put your feet in front of your seat. You were comfy. We were like on the second deck. We were watching Kershaw. And then I think, what's his name? Who's the shortstop for the Padres?
Tatis.
Tatis hit 2 bombs off Kershaw, pimped them both. It was so sick. We were getting drunk. The tall boys were like $20. I was like, well, I haven't been to a game in a while. If they're $20 now, what the heck is going on here? But like, it was so much fun because there was no one around you. You didn't have to worry about other fans. And it was like, honestly, the best experience I'd ever had. And you won't have it again because they're not going to waste those seats on keeping people comfortable. But It was so sick. Ugh.
Yeah. Nah, man. I mean, I have a pretty great story, but I know we're running out of time here. So, yeah, man. I mean, that's awesome. I remember my wife and I walking through San Francisco during 2020, and it was dead empty. Like, it was very apocalyptic walking through the city.
Oh,
and
man,
it was great, man. I mean, we did everything. We just walked down the middle of the road, like holding hands, doing the thing, and next thing I knew is just like, oh shit, there's like nobody out here. This is insane.
This is never gonna happen again.
Yeah. But all right, man. Well, that concludes our podcast of all this crazy conversation. We didn't even get to touch on golf today about the Bermuda Championship this weekend. But we'll just leave it open for next week on Wednesday to talk about. So cool, man. Well, once again, thank you everyone for joining on this podcast. We'll be having some more updates coming out next Wednesday. Make sure you subscribe and click, and we look forward to seeing your guys' thoughts and opinions on the next one.